Hello and welcome to Frost Over the World. Later in the programme, former US Ambassador to Afghanistan and Iraq and the UN, Zalmay Khalilzad, former Finnish President and Nobel Peace Prize winner, still the current one actually, Marty Ahtisaari. Then there's artist-sculptor Anish Kapoor, and I'll be talking to the leader of the opposition in Nicaragua about this week's crisis there. But first, the United States. Our first guest was a modest 8 points from becoming the most powerful man on the planet last November. John McCain was the Republican challenger, of course, as we all remember, to Barack Obama in the 2008 presidential election. But his pairing with Sarah Palin fell short of the Obama-Biden ticket, and Senator McCain is now continuing his politics from the floor of the Senate. He joins me now for a rare interview from his office in Washington. Senator McCain, John, if you had become President of the United States rather than President Obama, how would American policies at home and abroad be different today to the way they are?
Well, thank you, David. I try not to go that mental route since it can lead to a little frustration, and the fact is that I lost fair and square, and so I've been trying to look forward rather than back. But in trying to answer your question, I certainly would try have not engaged in some of the spending practices that this administration has engaged in. The huge size of the stimulus, buying car companies, focus on financial institutions and banks rather than homeowners and small businesses. There's a huge rising discontent here in America as they see Wall Street doing just great and Main Street doing terrible. And yeah, I've never seen quite such a contradiction. On national security policy, I hope that the President, and I believe the President, will make the right decision on Afghanistan. I probably would have taken perhaps a different course with both North Korea and Iran, but and I would not have had the freezing of the settlements as a precondition for Israeli-Palestinian peace talks. But I want to emphasize, I believe I'm the loyal opposition, where I can help the President and be with him, such as implementing General McChrystal's troop recommendations for Afghanistan, or whether it be bringing in under control the out-of-control costs of the acquisition of weapons, of defense weaponry, I want to work with him. Where I disagree, I want to be the opposition side.
Right, and in terms of, as you look at the situation today, though, yourself, do you think in Afghanistan 40,000 troops from America is enough?
Well, I believe that in the case of Afghanistan, I rely to a large degree on the judgment as far as specifics are concerned on General McChrystal, our Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and General Petraeus. But in general, I rely to a large degree on my own judgment, which is that we have to replicate under vastly different demographic and other conditions a surge such as the one that succeeded in Iraq. That's go out, clear, hold, and fight and train with the Afghan army and bring about an environment of security so that the rest of the governance, economic, political, social process can move forward. There are differences and significant ones. Some of them are better than Iraq was. Some of them are worse in Afghanistan than Iraq was. But the fundamental strategy, I think, needs to be employed.
And do you think that's an urgent decision, or would you wait a week or two until we get the results of the Afghan runoff? Would you wait for that?
Well, I would have made the decision some time ago, but I understand the President's desire for deliberate speed. I think you have to counterbalance that with the uneasiness that it's breeding in the region. And I think you have to counterbalance that with the most important factor, and that is that if you believe that the surge, as I do, or the McChrystal strategy is necessary, the sooner we implement it, the better off we are. We already have 68,000 troops there. They are in greater danger the longer period of time goes before we give them the needed reinforcements in order to implement the new strategy. So I worry about unnecessary casualties while we extend this period of discussion. And finally, I don't know of anyone who knows the region that believes that the Afghan election was going to be fair. But yeah, it will become a better government, as the Maliki government became a better government, once we provide the security, the training, the Afghan military, and all the fundamentals of a secure environment.
And what's the time scale we've got to put on Afghanistan? I mean, you've said on occasion you think in Iraq 1 to 1.5 years for solid signs of success, greater signs of success. I mean, have we got to look at Afghanistan as a long-term assignment?
I think we have to look at it long-term in the relationship with Afghanistan, and not forget that we abandoned Afghanistan completely after we were able to have the Russians defeated and force them to withdraw. But at the same time, I think you could see within a year to 18 months success. Afghan people don't want the Taliban back. And I'm also confident that the Pakistani renewed offensives and activity against the Taliban / Al-Qaeda are very helpful as well. So within a year to a year and a half, I think we could see great signs of success. Now, in what role the United States would remain, advisors, trainers, etc., then I think that is something that could go on for a long period of time.
And yes, and in the meantime, with the numbers being high and so on, do you think that this idea of a runoff election in Afghanistan is better than the previous proposal, which was a coalition between Hamid Karzai and Mr. Abdullah? I
think that a runoff election is very appropriate because that's what their constitution says. And obviously, any coalition or working together between Abdullah and President Karzai is beneficial. But now the onus has to be on Karzai, as it was on Maliki in many respects, and that government. There's got to be focus on corruption. There's got to be focus on good governance. There's got to be training of police so that when a policeman knocks on an Afghan's door, they are glad to see them rather than fear of them asking for another bribe. So there's got to be governance reform as a fundamental part of any successful strategy that we can employ in Afghanistan.
As of right now, while we're talking, what would you say is the situation with the credit crunch, the crisis or whatever? Is it behind us, moving from in front of us towards being behind us? How confident are you today, John?
Well, I think we're in great danger here of a schism in America that I have not seen the likes of which. Wall Street, things are fine. They're doing deals, they're trading bonds, and profits are at all-time high. I believe Goldman Sachs is going to give bonus of $700,000 per employee. It's astonishing. But if you go to Main Street America, you'll find unemployment at all-time highs, people not able to stay in their homes, small businesses shutting down with incredible frequency. And if you go walk down Central Avenue in Phoenix, Arizona, and tell people that the economy is recovering, they laugh or they cry. And so what happened with this economic bailout, they bailed out the financial institutions in Wall Street, and they didn't help the homeowners and small businesses. Now I understand the administration is going to focus some of its attention on small business owners. But the fact is, we told Wall Street that they're too big to fail, and we told Main Street that they're too small to save. That's a terrible thing we've done to middle America.
And what do you feel? We read a lot over here that first of all, that the candidate in 2012, that you have decided will not be you. Is that right?
I have decided that I will not inflict my candidacy on the American people again.
You will be sorely missed there. Tell me, do you think that Mrs. Palin, Sarah Palin, has an opportunity to be the leader in 2012, or would you advise her to bide her time a bit?
Well, I think Sarah Palin is and will remain a significant factor in Republican politics. She has a very strong base. It's very early to tell who will emerge. Very likely, whoever the ultimate candidate, we have not even heard from. But Sarah Palin is emerged as a significant political force in American politics. I have the greatest appreciation for her. I'm proud that she energized our party when we selected her as our running mate, and I wish her success in every way. But it's way too early to predict about 2012, David.
Right, and what about the subject of torture linked with things like Guantanamo Bay as well, and so on, and the new fears about Bagram and so on? You and the President are very close in your philosophical position on torture and American torture, etc. Has he done everything that you hoped he would do in the area of torture, Abu Ghraib, Guantanamo, Bagram?
Well, the administration made, I think, a tactical error and a serious one when the announcement was made after the president was inaugurated that they would close Guantanamo Bay within a year, without first formulating an overall policy on a very complicated legal issue, on a set of legal issues about the closure of Guantanamo Bay. What do you do with the people who you can't send home but you can't try either, who you know would go back into the fight? Where should the trials take place? Where should any remaining detainees be tried or imprisoned? And there's numerous other very legalistic issues associated with it. I still think that what happened at Abu Ghraib was a terrible blow to the image of the United States of America, and stories about torture. It was a terrible blow to our image, and one that will be a long time in us repairing. But I would have strongly advocated, and did at the time, let's work out the policy, let's work out the mechanisms, and then announce the closure. And now the administration finds themselves in the tough position of having said it was going to be closed within a year and probably not able to do that.
And that was an over-optimistic stand. Do you think they're trying to do the right thing? Do you share the fear that Bagram will be somewhat unregulated?
I worry about Bagram, particularly the foreign nationals that are held there. Again, we run into this same problem that you know, you can't try them in court because there's insufficient evidence, yet you can't release them because you know that they'll go back into the fight. And so, again, we should have a policy that affects Bagram as well as detainees that are at Guantanamo as well. These are very tough, legalistic, and sometimes very tortured issues. But we got to keep our eye on the ball, and that is that we make sure that there's never again a case where the United States of America or our allies torture prisoners in violation of fundamental rights of human beings, and including Article 3 of the Geneva Conventions.
Bless you, John. Thank you so much for that. We're about to lose the satellite, and so it's just time for me to thank you. It's been a real joy to have you with us, and we look forward to a further conversation, and one perhaps with next time you're in London. We can go back to Claridge's again.
Well, I would look forward to it, and I know it's inappropriate, but I'm a great admirer for many years of the wonderful work you've done, and it's an honor to be, frankly, to be interviewed by you.
Now, more on the Afghan elections. Zalmay Khalilzad will be with me after this short break.